exactly is a faithist?
Oh, okay. There's kind of a lot to it, but the basics is we only worship the Creator. We strive to create harmony within ourselves, peace, and selfless love so that we can share that with the world. Can't share something you don't have, right? So that's the first assignment is to do that. So think Buddhism, think the, Sermon on the Mount from Jesus, think, a lot of different philosophies and religions and cultures, teach the same thing. So for me, as a faithist, I kind of have taken a position of, when I was a Christian, it was very analytical, kind of like trying to get the text down and trying to understand what people believed, and so I knew how to talk to them and knew what the differences were, and it was very much trying to get everybody in boxes, so I knew how to, were they one of us or one of them. As a faithist, I really just focus on learning from everybody and trying to figure out what we have in common. What is it about your journey that is informed by wisdom, and then how does that help me? And then I can share you with, wisdom from my journey to you, and we can learn from each other. So I have a much better time having conversations now as a faithist than I ever did as a Christian. But so that's the basics of it.
Hmm. Okay, I guess I think I have I guess a basic understanding. There's some tenets there that are rooted, sound like they're rooted in Christianity. Um, so you do believe in a higher power. There is one.
Yes, we are a monotheistic, non-religious monotheistic belief.
Okay. Do you accept the other documented faith traditions that come before yours? For instance, the Judaism, the first five books of the Torah, the first five books of the Bible, Torah, the Bible in general, Jesus.
What do you mean by accept them? Accept them for authority?
Authority is a strong word. I mean, do you? Well, yeah. Okay, I'll go with authority. Yes, I'll go with authority.
Okay. I would say no. I don't actually accept any book as a source of authority,
Mm-hmm.
but all books are sources of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. So, in part of your faith tradition, does it involve reading, studying the Bible at all?
There is no required reading. We do have, okay, so the term faithist comes from a book, and I have it on the screen. It's called The Waspy, but that's not really required reading. It's just it's a textbook of history and science and sort of the origins of human like language and development, and allows sort of a bigger picture of sort of the foundations of religion, and sort of how we got here from the last 30,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I have my Bible right here, and I'm starting to read the Quran. I don't
Okay.
really find the Quran that interesting, but I've studied the Bible my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my wife and I just got this 14 book set. It published in 1917 of each volume is a collection of old texts from like pretty much the Eastern religions.
Okay.
From
Mm-hmm.
it's I'm still getting to know it, but it's a huge volume of
Mm-hmm.
books. It was pretty cool that we found it.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So this tradition that you're in, a faithist, so it's an organized religion. Do you have a place of worship that that you go to, a congregation that you are a part of?
Well, it's not really organized, and I wouldn't really classify it as a religion. I kind of wish it was, although I don't. I really don't like the idea of religion, but I like the idea of community. There are some communities, both online and also, in person, but there's really no structure. There's no like, conference office where there's a president and then local leadership. It's
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of faithism is to take this journey to the creator individually, and where you do find support and people to learn from and people to share with, that's great. But you are 100% accountable for the light that you have. So, and you're accountable to live by that light, so truth. And nobody is above you telling you what to think or where to go to find truth.
Mhm.
It's up to you. So,
Okay. Okay. I guess I have a clearer understanding. I'm a little bit different. I kind of feel I like the idea of structure. I like the idea of having a catechism. I like the idea of having a hierarchy. I
mm-hmm,
I really do find comfort in that idea, and especially a catechism and a hierarchy that are rooted in a text that I consider to be sacred. Um,
mm-hmm,
and I can't find any conflicts between them, no matter how hard I try. And I feel like there's answers to really huge questions that
mm-hmm.
other faith traditions just have not been able to answer to me, but I found them in Christianity. Um,
So I have to just put a
mhm,
thought out just to
mhm,
share with you. I really miss that structure. I
yeah,
actually miss the culture, and I
mhm,
miss a lot of what you're saying.
mhm,
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Um, what would be the the thing that, to reference your last sort of statement of a truth that is not found anywhere else? Because I would like to know.
When you say what would be a thing of a truth that, oh, you mean an answer or
Oh, an
an,
answer. Just
yeah.
referencing what your last statement.
Um,
Like, give me an example.
why we're here and where we're headed after we're here. After
So,
we,
why are we here?
why are we here? What is our purpose? What is our meaning for being here?
Why are we here then?
I believe that humans are here for love. Every meaningful human emotion revolves around love.
Mm-hmm.
Love of God, obviously, familial love, love
Mm-hmm.
of mother, love of family. Then you grow up and you go and start a family of your own. And
Mm-hmm.
then one of the most important commandment that has been told to us is love thy neighbor. So and so the idea that you have doing acts of service to others, so love of neighbor, I think that's the most important human emotion, and that's why we're here. We're built for love. That's what we're wired for. That's what we're supposed to be built for. We
Yeah, I
go
agree with
against it.
that.
Yeah, we go against it as
But you
humans.
can't find that
Yeah.
truth in other places. I,
um No, other places don't seem to think that the meaning of
huh.
life is surrounded by the idea of love in God, love of God, love of neighbor.
Hmm.
Not all of the traditions, no. I don't
Oh
think
no,
so.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that all the traditions.
Hmm.
I was just, I was just curious about your perspective about something that was solely unique to your tradition. But I mean, obviously we have a different path, and you know
Hmm.
things that I don't know, and I've been
Hmm.
exposed to things. But I can think of some tradition. I can think of a lot of traditions that have that focus. Maybe
Hmm.
with obviously a different framework, different
Hmm.
labels, and different culture around it than the New Testament. But
Hmm.
that's definitely an important one. I definitely
Yeah,
agree with you.
yeah. So I guess yeah. So my part of my journey is also for me, being a Christian. I kind of feel like I need to know
Hmm.
I need to know where I came from, what I was made here, why I'm here, and I need to know
Hmm.
what happens after. What happens
Hmm.
after I leave here? If there seems to be no point to Christianity if there is nothing happens after I die, then there's
Really?
really it it defeats it
So,
how do I explain it? Um the idea of a life after this one is beautiful to me. And the idea that, okay, other some people don't believe in it, seems tragic. And I kind of feel like if there is, I, I, I want to see my ancestors. I want to see my
Mm-hmm.
loved ones again. I want to live in a beatific vision in heaven with God. And,
Yeah,
you know,
that sounds
I want to
cool.
spend eternity praying for those of you still left here on earth and praying that you come up and be with me and experiencing all this beauty and glory. And if the idea is if there's nothing, I kind of feel like it wipes out the entire meaning of life, you know?
So,
Yeah.
huh. I hear ya. I mean, I can relate to
Hmm.
that, but then you have to wonder why. I mean, is selfless service, which is the goal from both of our perspectives, is it selfless, or are we pretending it is?
It's supposed I'll speak from a Christian standpoint. It's supposed to be selfless, and if it's not genuine. A genuine Christian does not act out of the idea I'm doing this because I want to go to heaven. I'm doing this because I love my neighbor and I see a neighbor in need and I want to be of service to them. And if
But
you
if there was no afterlife, then how would that change your perspective on all of it? Is what I'm thinking about that question for myself too. I'm not picking on you.
no, no,
It's
I
an
get it.
interesting
I get it.
thought.
I get it. So the point is that the if we're built for love and you
Mm-hmm.
genuinely feel that love, that's going to be reflected in the things that you do. So it's going to
Oh,
be
I
reflected.
agree.
Yeah. So it's going to be reflected in your intentions, your motivations are going to be genuine from the spirit of pure love of God and pure love of neighbor. And
But
in
if you
okay.
didn't have, so let's say you were a Christian, but there
Hmm.
were, let's just let's just say you only had the words of Christ.
Hmm.
So, which is, pretty much what we're talking about, like
Yeah.
love, loving
Hmm.
your neighbor,
Hmm.
but not really any instructions about afterlife or anything to come. It was just the here and now. Would that, if there were no answers about why we're here or where we're going, how would that affect your journey?
I personally think the idea of love would dissipate because
Hmm.
you would, and I think that you see that it's reflected in society now. So many people are not loving their neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
are you know, um,
Yeah.
and I think
Well, it's
you
an
take.
interesting thing to ponder, actually. I have sort of thought about this in the past,
Mhm,
but it's good to be reminded of it. Like, what are our
mhm,
true motivations?
mhm.
I think our ego can trick us to still have some selfish motivations while we are acting
Of
selfless. I
course,
know I
of
struggle
course,
with that.
yeah, of course, of course. I
Yeah.
struggle with that all the time because I think about it. Um, do I love God or am I really just trying to get back to my loved ones? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and
Yeah.
so I struggle with that all the time. And
Yeah.
I think that's normal. And
Yeah.
I think that's also to be expected. And I don't think that you need to beat yourself up over it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you do, the point is that you don't, when you're experiencing these difficulties, these conundrums, the point
Mm-hmm.
is not to just turn away and say, okay, none of it's true. I'm not going to do anything. I
Mm-hmm.
think you still need to maintain your faith. That's
Yeah.
still, if you maintain your faith and stay true to that and stay true to these virtues that you've cultivated through faith, like
Mm-hmm.
love and service and other, you stay true to that. I think you'll stay on the right path. I
Yeah.
think.
And there is a teaching in Faithism pretty much outlines that selflessness is the goal, is the direction of travel, but you're not going to get there in this lifetime, anyways. But it's the pursuit of selflessness,
Hmm.
definitely, that is the catalyst for growth. So, the struggle with ourself, our ego, and selflessness, and all of it is not a
Hmm.
bad thing. It teaches us how to grow.
Yeah, definitely. There was a
Do
comment
you,
in the chat. Did you pray for President Joe Biden today? I routinely pray for all world leaders, not just Joe Biden. I routinely pray for all leaders to govern justly and morally with God's
there's
laws in mind. I pray for that
yeah.
routinely.
There's somebody who wants to join in, and I think they wanted to talk to you. If they can be respectful, do you want that, or do you want
That's
them
cool.
to
I
wait?
don't mind. I get
Okay.
yeah, I got a thick skin. I'm good.
Well, I don't know what they want to talk about, but we'll see.
Okay. Hmm.
What is on your mind?
Good to talk to you again.
Hi.
I was just sorry. I was listening to that, and as a former Christian myself,
Hmm.
I was kind of, I was like, this is interesting. You
What's
know,
interesting? What caught your mind? Your eye or
well,
whatever.
the first one was, sorry, back. Without being Christian, there's really finding no happiness to the other side. It's,
Oh, when we were talking about things that were unique to Christianity, is that what you're referring to?
yes, it's
Oh, okay.
it's actually a very common shared belief. The
Yeah, if you guys
Egyptian,
want to dialogue about that, I'd be curious to overhear.
Hmm.
well, for everything, I think every major faith system in the world, and I'm not going to say religion because I really don't care for religion.
Hmm.
I for faith uh, has an afterlife. If you look at mine, I'm aiming to go to Valheim, the home of the honored dead, and when it comes to Norse mythology, there's multiple levels. When you're dealing with Yggdrasil, you have Valhalla, which is the home of the ultimate dead, or Odin's Hall, the guys that died in battle gloriously or did a lot more deeds. And it goes all the way down to Niflheim, which is the land of the frost and dead.
Okay, so
There is a Helheim too, which was converted over to Hell. That kind of interesting. I actually have Helheim's mark on me because
did you
a lot of
did you
Christians
say
told me to Hell.
Valheim with the V or Helheim? Like the video
Valheim.
game? Like the video game?
It was inspired by Valheim is the second level of Valhalla. Three main levels of Valhalla. There's Valhalla and now.
Okay. I don't claim to know much about it, but I do recall that it's a video game, right? And I guess that maybe that's what it's based off of. Okay.
It is just
Okay.
like Assassin's Creed Valhalla is based off of Norse mythology. God of War Ragnarok is now mythology.
Mm-hmm.
The stories of the Norse gods, but we achieved to go to a great place as well. And I hope one day if I'm over in Valheim, I can look over in whatever heaven you guys made it to, and I can wave at you
Is
and
there
be like, "Hey,
I
you
guess
made
is
it."
there a Christ-like figure in either one of your respective faiths, either the host or yours? Is there a Christ-like figure?
For me,
Actually,
no. There's no savior.
No savior.
um, actually,
Only the creator.
in Norse mythology, Odin, one of the top tier gods, he was actually crucified to Yggdrasil, the world tree, for 9 days, and came off it alive and gave to mankind runes or the wisdom of. So, not really a Jesus figure in there, no.
Mm-hmm. But you're both former Christians. What led you to decide that Christianity was not the way for you? I'm just curious.
Hypocrisy.
Of people?
Yes, because
Mm-hmm.
in Christianity, what is Christianity other than to be Christ like?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
no offense, most Christians aren't Christ like.
They never have been. Even in, I mean, Jesus Christ was crucified. So, I mean, by
But his
in
followers
his,
preached love. They never preached hate. They never condemned. They never. said they were going to hell for believing something different. Jesus and his apostles, when they were living, even said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Yet Christians of today's era, or those after Constantine, have been hate-filled, they have been more condemning, and if they see somebody different, even with David here, I've seen people in the chat, oh, you're not a real believer, you don't believe this, you're wrong. When in the world today, no one, I think, falls to the title of Christian because no one is Christ-like.
So you don't believe that people can genuinely be Christ-like? I like to beg to differ. I try my best to be Christ-like. Whether people believe it or not, I try. I try. That's what I strive to be. But yeah. Can I ask, I understand hypocrisy, but is hypocrisy among men failure of men, or is that failure of Christ or Jesus?
Do you want me to be honest, or do you want me to lie to you?
No, don't lie. Be honest.
To be honest, it's those who follow blind leadership. When you go to church and you sit there and you listen to a man tell you something and you listen to it and it's like, yes, he's right. Do you blame him or do you blame the one that taught him that? It goes all the way back to when the church was changed. The wording of the Bible changed. It goes all the way back to when the slightest minute was changed and everything started being preached differently. Because even when if you're a modern Christian, do you believe that being gay is a sin?
The person is not inherently sinful. The act is sinful, and heterosexuals don't get a pass on this, by the way.
What if I told you that Jesus healed a gay man?
He probably did.
And what if I told you he commended his faith and didn't condemn him?
Jesus saved the thief on the cross, so I totally believe that could happen. Yes.
And what if I told you in the Torah and the words, being gay is never actually mentioned in it?
The problem is that it's not about being gay. I think that gets twisted in modern society and what that teaching is about, because it's about the wasting of seed primarily, and it's about procreation.
And that right there, the procreation part, that is only in the Torah, and it's for the Hebrews. Me, you, and David would fall outside of that teaching because that was given only to the Hebrews, who were said to be the chosen people, and we would even today be considered Gentiles or convert Gentiles. We don't fall to the law of Moses.
You don't have to, but if you want to, you can, and you can follow. And the point is what I was saying is that heterosexuals don't get a pass on this. So hypothetically, the sex acts that two gay men or two women that would need to do to be able to have sex, married people are not supposed to have that sex, even in their marital bed. So it's not about a gay person being condemned to hell. It's about a person, gay or straight, choosing something that is other than the will of God. They're sin is about, I know what God wants, but I want what I want instead. That's what sin is about. And that rejection of what God wants is the actual sin. It's not all gay people. That's not what that is. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly.
I think you are.
You're very well. But one of the things that led me to walk away, and I told David last night, was even things that aren't or were never preached about, apparently, are being taught as, oh, this is the will of God. It's like, well, where did this come from? Well, it came from this when we were building up the Christian faith. And I'm like, so Jesus and God never actually talked about that, did they? And they were like, well, no, but it would be his will. Thy will be done. I have issues with that because it was those very words that cost, I would say, I almost want to say billions of lives, but I know it's multiple millions of lives. The
Mm-hmm.
words of Christians that took lives that never needed to be taken.
Let me ask you this, Johan. If the institutions of religion, of Christianity, the institutions that caused the wars and stuff, and people actually followed the Christian teachings and weren't hypocrites, I don't think that's possible because we're all humans.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be something that would make you reconsider it? I'm just curious because everything that you've said has been sort of not the fault of the Bible, but the people in power propagating their agenda.
If honestly the Word of God was as it was supposed to be, and I saw God taking action, probably.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But one of the things that I see is the whole free will of man where he won't intersect is, and I still believe in God. I still believe Jesus existed and all that. And I've told God, you've got a lot to answer for too when I die and if I see you up there. And people are like, what? How dare you? And I'm like, I honestly think we have the right because Jesus said we have the right to talk and ask him things. I want to
Oh,
know why he stood back and did nothing while millions of lives were lost in his name, which would be considered blasphemy and heresy.
Mm-hmm.
The very crimes that were charged against people that was used to execute the innocent. People burned at stakes for asking for a Bible. And if you don't ever believe that happened, all you got to do is go back to medieval times. There was a lady that was caught. She stole a piece of paper that had holy texture written on it by a monk
Mm-hmm.
from a church. And they said by her possessing those holy scriptures, she was
Mm-hmm.
blaspheming and being a heretic, and
Mm-hmm.
she was burned alive.
That's happening today in the world. There are certain countries where you're not allowed to practice your religion freely, where Christians are being persecuted.
And
Um,
Christians in America persecute pagans. It's no different.
are, are pagans being burned alive and not being allowed to practice their religion?
They're
I,
condemned to hell and told they're going to die in horrible ways. If you think someone's death, according to the Bible, you've committed murder.
if you take someone's death, I'm sorry, I didn't.
If in the Bible it
Mhm.
says, when it's talking about committing death, if you curse someone with your tongue, the power of life and death is
Oh,
in your
okay, I
tongue.
see what you're getting.
When
Yeah,
you condemn
yes, you're right.
somebody to hell, you are condemning them to the ultimate death. So yes, it is the same persecution to me. You cannot call one without the other.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. I'm familiar with that particular verse, and I'll be honest with you. If you chances are, if you're trying to condemn someone, the Jesus says that not everyone who calls Lord is going to actually make it to heaven. Not everyone who says Lord, Lord is going to really be know me. So there are a lot of people who are going to receive a rude awakening that are calling themselves Christians that might not actually make it to heaven the way that they think they will. Um,
It's like I'm being
mhm,
respectful. Like I said, as a former Christian, I was there when people
mhm.
were like, oh, that Wiccan, that Druid, that pagan, that heathen, they're evil. And I would ask how. Well, they have a different viewpoint than us. They have different thoughts. They have a different system, so they're evil and they're going to hell. I
that's
can't.
that's a that's I was talking to somebody like a week and a half ago, and he is taking sociology, and he's on university, and studying a lot of this stuff, and he was
Mhm.
saying that humans biologically are naturally going to find their own groups, and anybody not in that group is going to be discriminated against. It's a natural. It's a
Yeah.
it's a
Tribalism.
biological natural thing, and that's one of the things that, well, we all share in common. We all have some kind of a group, and we have people outside of it,
Hmm.
and it's up to us to learn how to treat everybody in or out with
We are a
decency.
group. We are humans. We should all be able to get along and have our own faiths and live peacefully amongst us
So I
ourselves.
asked him. So I asked him about this. Right? What if we, as a world, because he said that there has to be a them in order to fulfill our biology. I said, what if we just made up a them? What if the humans of this world just made up a them, like, the some kind of population on the moon? So now it's us versus, an imagination of them, and so now we can come together. He laughed and said, "Well, I don't know. That would be a lot of convincing, but in theory, that would work if everybody could just come together and
Hmm.
make up a them. Then it would work. But yeah, trying to get everyone to do that would be a tricky.
Yeah.
With the establishments that have been set up, it'd be almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
When I was getting my bachelor's in criminal justice, we had to take sociology and psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And Mussolino, who is one of my favorite people of all time, who is a Catholic,
Hmm.
he and him one day in class were going back and forth. This is when I was converting over to Norse paganism. And he asked me, he goes, "Are you mad at me for those things that were done by those of the church way back when?" And I said, "Well, how
Hmm.
can I blame you for their misdeeds? As a human, you weren't there."
Hmm.
He says, "But I support the church that
Hmm.
supported it." And the question kind of threw me back. And he goes, "I support nowadays the church that condemned and persecuted your kind." He goes,
Mm.
"Am I just as guilty?"
I don't think
And
of myself as supporting the church. I think of myself as supporting Jesus because I will speak freely. I am a Catholic. And there are, the sex abuse crisis that's going on, that has happened in the church, pains me. But at the same time, I feel that this is a crisis in the world. Every major institution is having this crisis. The Muslims, the Jews, um, all of the Protestant denominations,
The Boy
schools,
Scouts.
even, yeah, even families. I was a teacher for 13 years and I've had to deal with sexual abuse every single year that I was a teacher. Reports, police having to call child services, things like that. Every single time that it happened, it was in a family. So, and it didn't matter what walk of life they came from. So I think our society is warped, crooked,
Mm-hmm.
flawed. I don't think the church is flawed. I think society is. And at the end of the day, the church is made up of a body of humans.
So why let's share what what to you has been the biggest add of value in your new walk that has allowed you to grow and mature and add value to your life and add value to your community, and explain a little bit about that. And then Sharon, you have talked about that a little bit, but
Mhm.
go ahead
Mhm.
and share a little bit, and we'll try
Mhm.
and find some common ground.
Okay. Mhm.
okay. Um, well, I actually have my Havamal. I was reading it earlier, and one of the biggest things is open acceptance. Kind of like be kind to your neighbors, be loving,
Mm-hmm.
because in the travel Havamal that I have, it's the sayings of the High One, and it says basically when a stranger comes to your door, you open them in. If they are cold and seek fire, give them fire. If they are hungry and seek food and water, give it to them. If they seek aggression with an axe, return it to them. And I tell people, that's the ultimate golden rule in, I guess, Norse mythology. is, well, if they're hungry, feed them. If they need a place
Mm-hmm.
to stay, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. If you see
Mhm.
something, do it. And in that community, in the community I'm in, tomorrow we're actually having a get together and gathering. We're all welcome. You can either have your individual walk, or if you find a family, you stick together. It doesn't matter your background of where you came from. They know I'm a former Christian. Most of them are former Christians that have gone back to their ancestral roots. But it's the fact that we don't have to be forced to, like, with our gods, they don't tell us we have to do this. And that's one of the
Mhm.
biggest walks that's opened it up, is we don't have to. We can pray to each individual one for different needs. And it's not under the fear of, oh, if I don't do this, this is going to happen. And it feels like, instead of a chain around my neck where I'm forced to do something, they're offering their hand and, like, hey, we're here for you.
Mhm.
Cool.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
you feel more equipped to interact in a positive way with your community.
That, yeah, that's a good breakdown of that. Sorry,
All
I
right.
rambled.
No.
That's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sharon?
I think the biggest thing for me, two things. If someone, whenever someone asks me, so why are you Catholic? And my answer is always, I believe in the sacraments. I believe in the seven sacraments of the church. I believe them to be true. So, and one of the main sacraments is about the Eucharist. I believe
Mm-hmm.
in the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist, and no other tradition has that. Other traditions have communion, but I'm talking about, do you believe in the true presence? And I feel also that I feel like Christianity has given me a framework in order to work out any life issue that I have. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
struggling or going through something, I can say, well, what does the Bible say about grief? What does the Bible say about gluttony or greed or pain or suffering? And I can get
Mm-hmm.
an answer for understanding why we're experiencing in this world, what's happening. Is there redemptive power? Is there something that I'm supposed to be learning by going through whatever it is I'm going through? And that is the only faith that has ever been able to really provide that to me. I was never I was never an atheist. But I
Mm-hmm.
did live a life where I was not practicing any type of, I was living a secular life. I wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
practicing anything. And I felt like some of those lowest points, I once embraced my faith, and once I started using my faith as a guiding force for how I live my life, and when I'm going through something, remembering that my faith will provide a path forward, a way for me to get through this, and you going back to the Bible, going back to Jesus. And that's another thing with, if you believe in the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist, when you go to adoration chapels and you're in adoration and you're silent and you truly believe that you are in the presence of God in that moment, and then you're trying to work through those issues, I feel like miracles can happen in your life. And I'm not talking about like somebody being healed of cancer, although that has happened for some people, but not everyone. But I'm talking about something that gets you through those dark, tough times. And you
Mm-hmm.
have an idea of, okay, I hear you, God. This is what you want me to do. And you take that back out into the world and you start trying to implement it in your life. That's what I feel like Christianity has done for me. Not saying that no other tradition can do that. I'm just talking about me personally.
So it's giving you a compass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's what I feel like faithism has done for me, is a compass, giving me a
Yeah.
direction to go in, and giving me yeah, tools to navigate that. Like you said, if you have a question, you can go to the Bible.
Hmm.
I find that there is a lot of wisdom in the Bible.
Hmm.
Um, I used to be really angry. I used to be really angry at the Bible and Christians and
Hmm.
Christianity, and on my way out of Christianity, I had to go through a lot of sort of self therapy, which is probably not that healthy. I should probably go to a professional.
Well, it depends on the professional too, because some of them have
Yeah,
agendas. But yeah. Hmm.
but I've really come to a place where I don't have any anger towards the Bible because
Hmm.
I feel like I understand sort of, it's not the Bible's fault particularly. It's the things that I have struggled with in
Hmm.
relationship to the Bible are the people above me or around me. I was born into a
Hmm.
denomination, and so when I found out the claims
Hmm.
that those Christians and Christians, I'll just say the ones, the denomination I grew up in, the
Hmm.
claims they placed on the Bible wasn't actually making those claims for themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was it's a process, but I feel like I
Yeah.
have peace with it all. And like I said, like
Well,
I
that
I have
I
my Bible
definitely.
right here. It's right
Hmm.
next to me.
Hmm.
But I think, yeah, having a compass is really important. I was talking to somebody, and it was obvious that there was a struggle there, and I asked her what what in her life gives her structure and kind of guidance for like the stuff that we're talking about.
Hmm.
She didn't have anything. She didn't have anything in any area. She didn't have
Hmm.
Christianity or paganism or nothing. And I'm like, oh
Hmm.
man, you're gonna have a hard life without some kind of a compass. That
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
I we all have to find our own way, and compasses definitely will help. It's whatever I think helps find when your soul finds what it's looking for, or it sees that flicker of a flame that draws you in and kind of guides you to where you need to be. That's we all have to walk our own paths. I
Mm-hmm.
I still have a couple Bibles. I've got one that my mother gave to me that I almost threw away, but I just can't get rid of it because it
Mm-hmm.
was a gift from my mother.
Hmm. Is your
And
mother still with you?
my mom is still alive. She's not exactly happy with the path that I've chosen, but she told me I had to find my own path in life, and
Hmm.
she still loves me and still supports me. And one of her kids is an atheist. My younger brother Samuel.
Hmm.
Luke is different. Actually, that's the kind of the funniest thing is all her kids have biblical names: Shenandoah,
Mm-hmm.
Mary, John,
Hmm.
Luke, and Samuel. And three out of the four walked away from the belief system that she was on. But she said she still loves us, still prays for us, and hopes we find what we're looking for. And I love her for the fact that she's not denominational; she's non-denominational. But she gave me a Bible that was transcribed from Kenneth Copeland's, and I'm like, "Mom, you do know that I don't like Kenneth Copeland, right?"
Oh man.
She's like, "Oh, I didn't know," and I'm like, "It's okay. Like, I
Hmm.
love you. Like, I'm going to."
So let me. Are you? Can I ask a question? Or are you still working on your thought? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, it's. I like what she said. It's good to find a compass, and it's kind of funny because I just looked down at uh, my necklace, and on the back of one of my things is the Helm of Ar, the Nordic compass.
Mm,
So I
Hmm.
kind of find it fun
interesting.
that we all need that compass in our life because we.
Yes, I
Okay.
agree. I agree. So
My
there's a
question
common
is.
ground.
So my question is to all three of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in regards to everybody, in their life is on a journey of growth. Everyone has to, discover their own path. The question is, because we have three different perspectives represented, from each perspective, when our body dies, what does the path look like as far as learning and maturing and um, what so we're taking a path that is teaching us lessons specifically for us, lessons that we um, basically tailored to us. So what happens when on the other side as far as the journey goes?
Well, just my point of view. We can either. I honestly believe we can either come back in a reincarnation if our journey's not done yet and there's work for us to do, or I can go and join my ancestors in whichever realm I'm deemed worthy to go, and I'll smile, hug them, and be like, "Well, I hope it wasn't quiet here now because it's not going to be for very long, and hopefully
So
find peace."
I didn't know that your belief had reincarnation involved with that. That's interesting.
No,
No,
in North
is that
there is
reincarnation? Is that reincarnation um, into another human life form, or could it be animals as well?
in Norse paganism. There's the god of life and reincarnation, and uh, it can be whatever you're supposed to be. Um, you can
Oh,
come
okay,
back.
so whatever.
You can come back as an animal and be a spirit guide, or you can come back in another human form, whichever uh, one you need to be.
Okay, so when you go to the realm that you're suited for, the one that your path led you to, is there does the path, can you grow and learn and go to other realms once you learn those lessons? Go, is there still a progression, or is that a final sort of destination idea?
Well, when you in now when the in the Hoverball, the gods could transit or go between the realms, but the human souls that were there, when once they were there, they were quite literally there for you had
Okay.
earned your place, and you couldn't. Now, if you went back or reincarnated, you could go to a different place. But had your
Oh, okay.
spirit found peace, you were there.
Hmm.
Like
Interesting.
right now, there's no way I could actually probably earn Valhalla because unfortunately we don't have a lot of the battles like they did back in the day.
Yeah.
Somebody told me a really bad joke. They were like, "Well, when you're in a retirement home and you feel like your time's coming, grab a bedpan and have it out with the." And I was like, "I don't know if that's an honorable death or not, but hell, I'll try."
I've seen some crazy stuff, but I haven't seen that.
Mhm.
I work in medical field as a CNA, and if somebody came at me with a bedpan, I don't know. I definitely would be caught off guard, I think.
Mhm.
All right, Sharon.
Mhm. Well, in the Catholic tradition, I'm sure you know there's three destinations for us after we die. There's heaven, there's hell, or there's purgatory. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
three. Um, I'm aiming for heaven. I don't.
That's a
I'm
good
not
idea.
trying to. I'm trying not trying to go to hell. Um, I don't want to spend time in purgatory. Um, I'm aiming for heaven. I like the concept of a beatific vision where you are united with the Father and you
Mm-hmm.
spend eternity praising God and worship and in love and praying for the ones who are still down here on earth. We were talking about that before. That's what I want. That I truly believe the story, that salvation story that Jesus teaches. I truly believe in it. And
So,
I don't
what
know.
is
Mhm.
I want to talk about purgatory for a second, but so
Oh.
if you go to
Mhm.
heaven, what is the journey like besides worship and praise, which is, will be pretty amazing. But what, as
Mhm.
far as like the growth journey, like what does that look like? Is there any tradition or information on that? Like,
When you say your growth journey should be happening here and now, what now? Your growth journey should be now. Are you speaking in terms of what purgatory is, or is that
no,
what you mean?
I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about purgatory, but first I want to talk about so if somebody goes to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
they seems like so we're not perfect now, so either we have to be sort of recreated as the most perfect version of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
or which I mean that sounds cool, but then it also like half of the lessons come from the actual journey part. Um, no, I guess my question is: you go to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and do you get recreated into your most ideal, perfect self? So you get transformed, right?
I guess so. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but then, so where does so is there a place for like learning and discovery and like maturing your spirit still, or is that pretty much a complete process when you go to heaven?
You can't bring imperfections into heaven. So if there's some type of perfecting that has to happen, it has to happen now, right here and now, while you're alive. Um, or it can happen through the process of purgatory, where you go
Mm,
through that spiritual process of perfecting. So, I'm trying to think. There's a book, one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis. He's written a lot of books that I think are amazing, but one of them is called The Great Divorce. And
mm-hmm,
it's about people, and it's fictional, but I think this C.S. Lewis, he's very good at making talking about human nature and some of the
mm-hmm,
things that humans experience. And basically, the Great Divorce is about a group of people who have died, and they're on this bus to get to heaven. And along the way, they kind of don't want to make the journey that they need to make to get to heaven. They
mm-hmm,
don't want to let go of some of the worldly things that they need to let go of. Like one man in the book was a learned scholar, and he couldn't let go of his ego. He couldn't let go of he couldn't let it go. So he couldn't get
mm-hmm,
there. And he'd rather stay where he was with his ego than be in
hmm,
heaven. Another woman couldn't let go of her grief. Her son had died, and she's been grieving her son all this time, and she's been angry with God over the death of her son. And she's dead,
mm-hmm,
and she says, I want to go to heaven. And the angels are telling her, if you we can help you get to heaven, but you got to let go of your grief. You'll see your son. And she says, no, bring my son down here right now. She'd rather bring her
wow,
son out of heaven down to hell where she is than go through the process to get to be with him. So, where your emotion is so, where you hold on to it so much that you can't let it
mm-hmm,
go, and it supersedes your love for God and your will to and desire to be with God, you're not going to be able to bring that into heaven. So there's that
hmm.
perfecting process that has to happen. Whether it happens right here in this life, or whether you have to spend some time perfecting it before you can actually get to heaven. Either way,
So
it
what does
needs to be God.
purgatory look like? I mean, so
Mhm.
purgatory is sort of like the final polish, before you
Mhm.
get to heaven. But what is that? Is there any information about
I think one of
like
the
the?
best, it's fictional, but one of the best, if you've read Dante, Paradise, the Divine
I
Comedy,
haven't.
I think that's a very good imagery as far as what purgatory might be like.
Hmm.
Um, and that was one of the things. So, for instance, the faith tradition, I was Christian, Seventh-day Adventist to be exact, and they don't believe in purgatory. They believe in the resurrection of the dead. So everybody is asleep, they're dead, and then they'll be raised up when Jesus comes back. I did not struggle with the concept of purgatory because in college I had read the Divine Comedy by Dante. And so the
Hmm.
idea of purgatory was not foreign to me. But basically, it's a purification process. And I heard one theologian describe it as either making metal where you have to put it
Hmm.
in fire and you have to pound it out and you have to. to
Get off the dross.
yeah, to purify it. And if you
Mm-hmm.
were a person, imagine that pain that you would have to be experiencing for being that hot, being placed in fire, being pounded and pounded to be made perfect. So there's some suffering that's
Mm-hmm.
involved in purgatory, in that purification process, suffering in the process, and then suffering at being separated for God, that thing that you longed for.
Mm.
um
I do have a question. Is that the same Dante who wrote Dante's Inferno?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, he actually wrote a very. I actually have a copy of Dante's Inferno over on my bookcase over there, and I was just looking at it. I'm like,
Hmm. Yeah.
Dante is definitely an interesting human being that existed, because if you read Dante's Inferno,
Hmm.
he actually mixes Norse and Greek mythology into his books.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
In
So he
Dante's
said, so the
Inferno,
Divine Comedy is three of them. There's Paradiso. So that's heaven. There's yours, Inferno, which is hell. And then there's Purgatorio.
Hmm.
So the
the
three.
Interesting.
Inferno one was interesting because he actually wrote that because he got kicked out of his hometown by
Mhm.
a political group. And
Yeah.
in one of the lower levels of hell, those for betrayal and
Mhm.
adultery, he talks of Helen of Troy and Achilles that he spots down there. And I'm like, wait, did he just reference a Greek guy that
Mhm.
I actually know the book? So yeah, his his description of purgatory is
Mhm.
almost the land of gray. It's a place of emptiness
Mhm.
where you're supposed to find solace. It's
Mhm.
kind of like Nickelheim or Coldheim, which
Yeah.
is the land of
Mhm.
lost ghost.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I honestly think Dante copied that.
I don't know if I would say he copied it, but I guess so. I guess there's definitely parallels. I don't know if he copied it. I don't know if I'll go that far. And I'm not saying that Dante is like Catholic. It's not a Bible. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I just said that one of the books that I remember reading that just really, I felt like, has imagery in it that just really, if you wanted a picture of what purgatory looks like or what
Mm-hmm.
hell might be like, either read that or read about the lives of the saints. Um, People like Saint Faustina, Saint Therese of Lisieux, um, even the church fathers like Saint Thomas Aquinas, Teresa of Avila, all of these different people and what they've written about, and their images and visions of heaven and their images of hell and things of that nature. I feel like you can kind of get a picture of what it might be like. So,
So someone goes to purgatory,
mhm.
can they sort of fail the test and wind up in hell, or is it kind of you stay there until you get to heaven?
If anybody who's in purgatory is bound for heaven, they're bound for heaven.
Okay.
They'll stay there until they
Well,
have to stay there, but
that's
they're
some good
bound for
news, I guess, if you get there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting theory. Like I said, it's um, I think every faith has got an interesting. I love the fact that in a friend of mine who's Buddhist, he
Mhm.
said if I get it wrong this time, I can always come back and try it again. And I'm like, well, at least you have endless tries to do so.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, at least it's not one and done. And
Mhm.
he laughed and he goes, well, knowing my issues, he goes, I'll probably be here a few lifetimes. And I said, and
So,
knowing, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I said, well, knowing myself, I said, I'll probably be right there with you and we can meet up in another lifetime. And I was like, sounds like fun to me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
One of
So.
the things that I like to do, and because
Mhm.
we're talking about purgatory and similarities
Mhm.
of where the source material might have come from, Dante or whatever, is to it's really interesting studying different faith disciplines And there seems to be a common thread of truth, a common elements that the human experience has been able to express. And so I'm really enjoying you guys' conversation. I know there's not a lot of similarity, but it's interesting to hear about. I have to tell you, I was born Seventh-day Adventist, so I feel like we got a lot more in common now.
Oh yeah. How do your parents feel about or your family in general feel about this conversion of yours? Because my parents did not take conversion to Catholicism well. They did not.
Mm.
So
Well, so when I left Adventism, I got baptized in because when I left for several reasons, but one of the primary reasons was I did not want my identity to be muddled with anything earthly. So if I was, joint heirs with Christ and a citizen of heaven, I wanted that to be it. I didn't want to be, co-titled with anything. I didn't want to be a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. I just wanted to be a Christian. So I did get rebaptized and invited everybody to come. And, we don't all live close together, but I did invite everybody. And nobody showed up, which is, fine because we're separated by, states and states and states. But my sister, and I talk openly because we both have, left Adventism. But my mom, I have invited her to ask me about my journey so that she can know what her son is up to. And she has shown no curiosity, so I don't feel any desire to force it down her throat. If she wants to know what I'm doing and what I believe and everything, then I have told her she can ask me anything she wants. And she says, "Oh, I just love you. I don't have any questions." So that's fine.
yeah.
She's kind of a person who is taken over with conflict avoidance. And conflict avoidance is an intimacy killer. If you avoid conflict, you're not going to really get to know people. You have to be honorable to the conflict. You can't just be...
You can't be passive aggressive and pretend that it's not there or avoid the hard, tough conversations.
Yeah. Embrace the conflict, learn from each other, love each other, and if you have to, more than likely, you just try to embrace empathy and because everyone's journey is different. You're not... See, there's this concept of agreement equals love and love equals agreement. That's not true at all.
Right.
And so people who believe that often will just avoid conflicts just so they can have this illusion of, intimacy, which is an illusion.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you I was petrified of coming out and telling my mother that I had left the church. I was like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. Because when we were younger and she still had a little bit of a mean streak, and I think every mom has it at one point, she had told us to scare us, I brought you into this world, I can take you out. And
yeah.
when older, you still kind of fear your mother. I think it's a male thing of, that's my mama. And I finally broke down and I was like, Mom, I got something to tell you. And she's like, okay, what is it? And she had that look on her, so this better not be what I think it is. And I was like, this is not going to be easy. Well, my sister was there and my younger, not the youngest brother, but the next one down, and he spit it out and he goes, Johnny's a pagan. And
rip the Band-Aid off.
She looked at me and goes, what? And I hope you have a good rest of your week too, to the commenter. She looked at me and I was like, Mom, I have to walk my own path. And she stood up And she looked at me and she walked over and she hugged me and she goes, Johnny, I'll always love you. You're my son and you need to find your own way. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's it? I'm not dead? It's not going to kill me? Uh, but when the rest of the family found out, I am now permanently blocked with most of them. My aunts and uncles. I went from black sheep to ultimate black sheep, which I did not know there was such a thing until they found out I was a convert. Uh, which, God, that's.
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah, that
like
sucks.
I said, I think I would rather have what my mom did over years because I wanted her to. If she was going to be mad, I wanted her to be mad. If she was going to be accepting,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted her to do it. I wanted it, like you said. I
Yeah.
couldn't take the like. That's great. I would have. I would have probably lost my mind.
The only people I've actually told were some really, really close friends, and we, when our friendship was really sort of founded on this journey of questioning, and they were Mormons ish. They were sort of discovering new aspects of Mormonism and new aspects of Christianity, and we were, our friendship was all sort of built up around this journey of discovery. And they believed things I didn't believe, and I believed things they didn't believe, and we had hours and hours and hours of questions, and we lost track of each other because we both sort of independently at the same time deleted our Facebook accounts, and phone numbers changed, and by the a month and a half later we realized that we probably would never speak to each other again because of our lack of foresight. So like 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years go by, and I finally tracked them down through a connection of a connection of a connection. And when I got a hold of them, we were both so excited. I wept. I mean, I was holding it back, but these were like like soulmates. Him and his wife and his son. And I was so excited because I was so sure that they were still on this journey of discovery, and we would be able to talk about what has happened in this time that elapsed. And they had converted to basically Calvinism, and that's kind of a closed circuit. Not a lot of it's kind of a lot of circular reasoning and predestination, just some things that make it hard to have conversations. And I probably should have used more discernment, but I just laid it all out for them because we're going to have some excitement. They're not going to understand what I'm saying, but they're going to be excited for me. I'm going to be excited for them. And by about 2 or 3 hours into it, I realized maybe it was not such a great idea to share so openly because they seemed like well, long story short, I lost all of my value as a friend. I think is totally gone. And so I am, if people don't ask, I just don't tell. I am tired of losing relationships. It's frustrating.
I think that's going to be inevitable. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
It's hard, but
Can
it's true.
I tell you some wise words that I got told once by a wise old man?
What's that?
Those people were put in your path to help you in the time that they were there.
Mm-hmm.
You you remember the memories, the fondness of a great friend, and then you go on and you take it and grow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
After he
That's
would
what
tell
I
me,
have had to do.
he always quoted a specific quote, and I love it too. We come to our bridges and burn them behind us with the smell of smoke and a tear, knowing that we once held that dear. And
Mm.
it's a abbreviation of another quote, which the memory that we once knew somebody, we smell the smoke of that. It's basically when it's done, and you don't look behind you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
Yep.
I've had
That's
friends.
pretty beautiful. I like that quote, actually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you ever find the source, could you DM me that? That's cool.
I can if you follow me. I tried following you, but I'm at my 10,000 mark.
Oh,
I tried following.
I guess
There's a
I
limit.
guess
I
just
had
put
no
it.
idea there's a limit on TikTok of how many people you can follow. I didn't know
You can
that.
only follow 10,000 people.
I guess you can put it in one of my videos as a comment or something. I don't get a lot of comments, so I'll definitely be able to find it.
If you have your computer there, I don't know if you've got a computer or a
Oh,
phone.
Mm-hmm.
actually, I do. Let me.
All you got to do is type in when we come to our bridges, and it normally pulls up the quote.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Bridget.
Well, it is 8 o'clock. I don't know how TikTokers can do this all day. After about 2 or 3 hours, I'm done. But this has been really great,
I think so
Sharon.
too. Mm-hmm.
It was really great to meet you,
Thank you.
and Johan, it's great to talk to you again. And
Pleasure.
this is the reason why I'm on TikTok. Well, no, actually, my reason is to find other Faithists, but secondarily, to have great conversations, which is what I do primarily. I don't find any Faithists on this app. I've only found a handful, but this has been great.
So
This is
you're on
why
the
I'm on
West
the app.
now. I can always
Yeah.
tell. I can always tell who's on the West Coast. It's 11 o'clock out here, so
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast too.
I got it. What part of the East Coast are you on?
I live in Georgia.
Do what?
I live in Georgia.
What part of Georgia?
I live in northern suburbs of Georgia, Kennesaw, Georgia.
Forgive the laughter. I live in Helen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Neighbor.
You are literally an hour and 30 minutes away.
Hey, neighbor.
I haven't met anybody on TikTok that close to me.
I just thought
That's
about that.
cool.
I thought he was going to say maybe he lives upstairs or something.
What street do you live on? Oh, wave out the window. There you are.
Shoot, Kennesaw is not that far from us at all, and we get a lot of people from Kennesaw that come up to Helen to get away from the city.
Yeah.
If you've ever been up here to Helen, you've probably seen me before.
Okay.
I work at the hat shop, and
Okay.
what are the
Very cool.
odds? What are the odds you come on and end up talking to somebody right down the road?
That's cool. So you guys are basically neighbors, and Sharon and I are ex-Adventists, so there's connections all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I want to get off because I'm tired, but let me ask you. It's so hard to end conversations because, especially when they're... Okay, so my question is, were you born an Adventist like I was, or did you convert to Adventism, or
No,
how
I
did
was
that...
born. My father was Seventh Day. My father was
Yeah.
Seventh Day Adventist.
And at what point did you start thinking like, this does not adding up, the math isn't right on this thing? How old were you?
Adolescence. Adolescence.
Yeah, it's tough for teenagers to be teenagers and make it through and still still have the same convictions when you were baptized at, like, 12 or 8 or whatever it was.
Actually, I was never baptized because yeah.
Hmm.
I gotta ask, were you able to find the quote?
I did. Okay, let me read it. So we cross our bridges when we come to them and burn them behind us, with nothing to show for our progress except a memory of the smell of smoke and the presumption that once our eyes watered.
Still one of my.
Tom Stoppard is the quote from. So that's cool.
A lot of
Cool.
meaning in that. Well, you have a good night.
All right,
Enjoy it.
gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It was great to talk to
Th-
both of you.
Hope to
Thank
talk to
you.
you.
Hope you guys have a good night.
You too.
All right, bye.